Good evening. Welcome to the March 20th, 2018 caucus meeting for the City of Brook Park. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott.
Here.
Bergio.
Here.
Orcutt.
Here.
Stem.
Here.
Mancini.
Here.
Poindexter.
Here.
Salvatore.
Here.
Everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. On to item number 3, under discussion. Item number 1 is the 2018 budget per Council President Vecchio. I'm going to open the floor up for discussion. Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I asked many questions last week to the Finance Director and his assistant. I did have some line item things that I wanted to go over with the mayor and seeing how he's not available tonight. I'd like to see where my colleagues stand on this. Maybe I just propose we put this off till either a special meeting or next week. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Scott.
Through the chair to Mr. Piatek. Hey, just out of curiosity, I don't want to bring this. On the street improvement thing, can you please explain to me what the resurfacing, all that curtails? What if you're going to resurface a street? What's the process and what the results and how long is it typically lasting after they do it?
I'm sorry, you want an explanation of a resurfacing project, or are you referring to something?
No,
on the-
resurfacing project. If it says resurfacing, what does it curtail? Well, I mean,
Typically, a resurfacing project is, most of the streets in Brook Park have a concrete base, and at some point in time, they've been overlaid with a layer or two of asphalt. So on a resurfacing project, normally what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll mill off the top surface, get down to the concrete base, if you will, make some base repairs, make some curb repairs, fix catch basins that are found to be in a state of disrepair, do some joint repairs, partial depth, full depth, and then we'll come in and put usually 2 layers of asphalt over an intermediate course and a surface course, and then seal the edges.
so you go down to the concrete.
Typically, we'll go down to the concrete, yes.
Typically, how long does the resurfacing project, and when you do a street, how long does it typically last?
It's hard to say typical. The length, the longevity of it depends on a number of different things. Obviously, the condition of the concrete base that we've just overlaid. Obviously, the better the base, the better longevity you got. And the base, at some point in time, you're going to see reflective cracking through the asphalt layers. And if we can keep up with a maintenance type project and do some crack fill, you will get a longer life out of that pavement. Mm-hmm. So typically, I'd like to say we'd get 10 to 15 years out of an overlay. And I think, normally we can see more than that. But, I would use 15 years, and then, you'd start seeing some more maintenance required to extend that pavement life. Resurfacing is not intended to be a permanent type repair. It's more of a maintenance type application project.
Okay, and that's all I had for right now. Thanks.
Ed, while he had you there, one question. What criteria is used to determine resurfacing of a street? Do we have a set criteria to let everybody understand?
Obviously with the street rating database, the street rating database is a guide. There's a number of criteria that we use to set numbers to it to get a street ranked. Obviously, I can't look through the pavement to see what the sub-base looks like. I mean, you can make some observations based on, you know, what you can see from up top. But, you know, if there's a street that's, you know, going to be considered for resurfacing, you know, typically I'll go out and do a little more of an extensive type evaluation to give my opinion. Do I think that, you know, this is a candidate for resurfacing or not? Some of the streets, you know, on the database that are up near the top, I would be reluctant to say that we can overlay them, because I think, you know, Mr. Scott's question about how long you're going to get out of it, I think if you overlay some of the streets near the top, you're only going to get 3 or 4 years out of it, and I don't think that that's a wise expenditure for the city. So we try and catch the streets to overlay before they get to that point of, you know, it's too far gone. So I don't know, does that answer some of your question?
Yeah, definitely, thank you, I appreciate it. Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on that same questioning. Now, this database is originally established from worst to the best. Is that correct? Meaning the streets at the top of the list are the ones that are needed of repair more so than the ones at the bottom of the list.
I think that would be fair to say. The ones near the top have a lower rating, which would mean it's in a greater state of disrepair.
I mean, historically, over the years, it seems like we've always tried to stay towards the upper portion of the list. That was the whole idea of establishing this in the first place, was to try to repair the ones that are in dire need of repair, and to follow some type of criteria, and to have a list that when residents call and say, where's my street on the list, we'd be able to talk intelligently and explain to them exactly what the administration and what the council was working towards. But if we're going to start drawing streets from the middle or from the back, we are no longer following that guideline. And I was just curious what's changed.
I guess I have to respectfully disagree that we've always picked I mean, you're saying that we've picked the top streets on the list.
No, that's not what I
guess-
said. We try to stay within the top list.
Well, I think that we're still holding true to what we've done in the past. I guess I would have to take, you know, the past years and see where they were on the list. I mean, just because, you know, a street, if you look at I mean, what's the difference between a 24 and a 25? Not a whole lot. You know, so there's quite a few streets that are 24, you know, that are 25 and below. So, you know, again, I wouldn't recommend doing, say, on certain sections of streets, I wouldn't recommend doing an overlay. And, you know, do you want to do, you know, 4 streets, or 3 streets, or 1 street? And, you know, I guess we were looking to do some asphalt work in the past few years. We've done considerable amount of, you know, remove and replace, which, you know, is, in my opinion, you know, more of a permanent fix. But those dollars those are obviously more expensive projects, and you don't get to spread the work around like on a resurfacing type project.
I understand the difference between a 24 and a 25, and I understand that there isn't much difference between the two. But obviously, you rated it that way. And then we get into something that close, then it would involve the actual cost of doing the street, provided it falls within the budget amount that's going to be budgeted for street repair. That question, I just wanted to hear it from you, know how exactly the streets were picked. And I guess I have a few other questions, but I'll refrain from any more until the mayor gets back, and I'll let my colleagues have an opportunity to question. Thank you.
Mr. Orcutt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Ed Piatek, I've got a question about that sheet you just set in front of us here today. Has there been some changes in some of the roads that are going to be getting repaired?
It was my understanding that there was a sheet that came over, if it was yesterday or maybe I think it was maybe yesterday or today. There were 2 alternates, and the one that I just handed out was the latest, from what I understood, is the latest alternate.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have at this time.
Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the engineer, just to help me understand this database a little bit clearer, what is the maximum rating that a street can have? Is it 50 or 40?
I think it's 36.
Oh, 36 is the highest?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it would be 9s. There's 4 categories. It would be 9s in each category.
okay. All right, that kind of helps me put things into perspective a little bit better. And that's all I really have.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Anyone else? Mr. Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think to follow up on Councilman Orcutt's question, it looks like a couple of these streets were removed from the draft, Stonecrest and 2 sections of that. Do you know the reason why they were removed?
There was, like I said, there was just some alternates that were asked, for me to put together, and this was the latest one that was sent over, so.
Through the chair to our finance director, weren't we talking about a little bit more, like $1.2 million originally? I thought we talked about that. We were talking about the budget last week.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilman Bergio, that is true. $1.2 million is actually budgeted, but remember that $230,000 of that's for the design work, the engineering services for next year's roads program, 150th, and also Holland Road, along with the design for our portion of the design for the Sheldon Road project with Middleburg Heights.
Okay. I probably share the sentiment of all of us, kind of disappointed that we couldn't do more. I was hoping that we could match last year, but I'm sure everybody up here would like to see that, including the mayor. And so I understand that, but that's, just wish we could have done a little bit more. But we'll make the best of what we have. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bergio. Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the engineer, are we looking towards any grants for this year? I know that's a big revenue dip in this year's budget, proposed budget. Is the lack of grants, and are there any grants we're going after for this year? And could you speak on those if there are any?
Sure. Just typically your local roads, your residentials don't qualify for any type of grant funding program. I mean, you can look into maybe some community block development grants, and typically those come out late summer. You score well in certain income regions in that program. So there's the Public Works program, which, I intend on, submitting, on that project, on a project in that program that was similar to what we did with the Holland Road. So, the local roads, like I say, typically don't qualify for, any type of grant program. But the 3 projects that the finance director spoke, the Smith Road resurfacing, the Holland Road reconstruction, and the Sheldon Road resurfacing, those are all projects that, have some level of, grant and or loan component to it. So while those won't be constructed this year, those are in the program for next year.
And just one more question, through the chair also to the engineer. Does your office have all the tools necessary to go after and get as many grants as possible? Because it seems like, our budget's real tight, and our proposed roads program is really light, and I'd like to make sure that we are actively pursuing all the grants possible that we can get as much done with with the least amount out of our budget as possible.
I guess, yes. I mean, I feel as though our office is equipped to go after, any type of grant, and if there's something out there that you're aware of that we need to pursue, I'd be happy to, to speak with you and go after that. In the past, it's been a collaborative effort between my office and typically economic development to seek, grant funds, and I would intend that, that would be the process, moving forward. So, yeah, I guess I feel as though we're as equipped as anybody to go after grant money, and we're always looking for opportunities for the city to secure grants.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Mr. Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can, through the chair, Ted, I see on the ratings, you have 4 of my streets that are definitely in need within the top. Well, they're in the 25, 24, 23, 22, and I appreciate it, which shows me this rating system's on a pretty good basis. But on that, I do agree with my colleague, Mr. Bergio, that, we were hoping there would be more on here. The streets that you have on here, the 4 that I'm looking at, are definitely in need. I mean, they probably could have been done a long time ago. But my point on it is, and if the mayor was here, and I will address it, that there's a lot others in the community. He said himself, 45, 50 million. I know Mayor Coyne had said many a times, we could probably put 10 to 15 in every ward. So I just want to know, and I think it's for everybody to think about a long-term solution on how to conquer this street program, because when we are out there, and I'm sure many of my colleagues would concur, that's what we hear: streets, 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 my street, my street, my street. So, but like I say, that's all I have to say for now. And I appreciate the rating system, the database that was very well put together. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Stem?
Thank you, Council President. Just to follow up and comment on Councilman Mancini's. So a lot of the residents, the number one question I get is roadway repair. I mean, other than your home, your second largest investment is probably your vehicle. And we know vehicle maintenance and repairs are expensive. And I'm glad we're talking about it, because we have to focus on this, because it's not going away, and we have to come up with some longevity to figure out a solution on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I had one more question. So is it safe to say that the streets that are marked as the lowest rating being 22 are streets that are needing reconstruction? Is that safe to say?
I would say so, yes, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just follow up.
Sure.
On some of the sentiment. The service director and I spent, quite a bit of time driving around looking at the streets, and sometimes it's a little hard to stomach some of the conditions of the streets, but yeah, there's a tremendous need in the community for revenue to do more for the roads. So I concur with that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, back to the engineer, and I'll probably address this to Mr. Single, and I'll talk to the mayor when he returns. So this evening, we switched out Stonecrest for Hardin, is that correct?
I believe that was the difference between the two, and there was an increase in the crack seal, the amount allocated for a crack seal.
Okay, well, what I would like to do, I know we're not going to be able to accomplish it this evening, but I'm going to sit down with Mr. Single and with the mayor and any other member of council. But I would like to see Stonecrest stay in this and add Hardin and add that additional funds into the budget for street repair. So that's all I have. That's what I'd like to accomplish. I don't want to take one street out in exchange for another. I would rather add another street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Mr. Stem?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to add on Councilman Salvador, I'm in full agreement of continuing to keep Stonecrest on this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Motion was discussed.
Support.
Motion, this was discussed, properly supported. Discussion on the motion. Mancini. Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Orcutt.
Yes.
Motion, this was discussed and approved. Moving on to number 2, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a change order between Brewer Garrett Company and the city of Brook Park to change plans in the vestibule area and other areas of the John A. Pawnee Community Center and declaring an emergency, introduced by Mayor Gamella per Council President Vecchio. I'm going to open the floor with the mayor not being here. I'll open the floor for discussion. Mr. Orcutt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do have some questions about the details on all these line items that we have here for the $110,000. And I was wondering if I could make a motion for our building commissioner, who is in the audience tonight, if he could come forward and answer just a few questions that I may have.
I'll support that.
Motion to have Mr. Hurst come forward and speak, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio.
Yes.
Motion's approved. Mr. Hurst, please state your name and address for the record.
Ted Hurst, 16683 Cricket Lane.
Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hurst, thank you very much for coming up and talking. I just wanted to have a little bit of a breakdown, if you don't mind, for some of this stuff. This is because it's been in, this is more stuff that's being added to a $5 million project, and I do have a lot of questions about that. And just starting off with our drywall and carpentry, I was wondering if you could break that down for us.
As far as a breakdown is what that scope actually means, or what's being done there?
Exactly. Are we putting a wall up and a
There's numerous
room, or-
things that's happening. In the vestibule, the proposed new vestibule, there's a wall that's being built there. There's windows that are going in, service windows for the clerk of courts. There's drywall, obviously, hardware, that type of stuff is the carpentry, replacing the ceiling tiles in that area that are damaged from all the years of the roof leaks, and it was a storage room is what it was. So you have that, you have drywall, the wall that's being built in the tax area to privatize the tax department. There's some security issues in the tax department that we're trying to resolve. There's that wall, the structure of the wall, the drywall, trim, ceiling tiles, those types of things that are going to be part of that drywall carpentry package.
Okay, and that has nothing to do with the outside wall or door, I'm sorry, the door that's gonna be installed?
No, no.
Okay, that's a separate,
That's in the breakdown. There's a price for the doors. That's the actual doors themselves, and the installation is part of that.
and I can assume that the painting at the next line item is just to paint all those walls, all that, to have the painter
That's to
come
paint
back.
that storage area, and obviously the new wall that's going to be built to secure the tax area.
Okay, and the electrical that's there, just for receptacles?
We've got some relocation of light fixtures. We have to add some receptacles, obviously, to service the clerk of courts area. Code requires X amount of outlets per feet of wall. So the new wall that's going into the tax area, there has to be some additional electric added in there.
Okay, fire sprinkler, that's a no-brainer.
That's a
Since there's-
relocation of heads because the wall limits the coverage of the head. You
Okay.
can't be within 6 feet of a wall in order to get the coverage of the sprinkler head.
The masonry work that needs to be involved there?
That's the actual removing of the outside wall. They'll have to needle beam that wall, put beams in to hold the 25-feet wall up above it till they get the new steel I-beam in place and get all the masonry tooth back in and ready for the door frame.
Okay. And then the flooring, that price there, I think we discussed that at another meeting, where that's just that parquet floor to get repaired, sanded, and stained.
Yeah, that's to replace about, and I'm going to throw an approximate out, about 600 square feet of parquet floor the bad area towards the kitchen area, if any of you've seen it. That'll be replaced, pulled up, replaced, and then the entire floor will be sanded, bleached, and restained so that it all matches. It'll be, completely refinished floor.
Perfect. All right, and that's all I have right now. Well, actually, originally, since you've been kind of running this project, right, for the city, or is it kind of switched hands now from our
I've been
last
involved with-
administration?
Well, I've been involved in the transfer as well. So yeah, for the most part, yes.
Okay, but it's basically been the mayor that's been meeting with the contractor each time, Mayor Coyne and now Mike, or Mayor
Yeah,
Gabella?
yeah.
Okay,
I've been
Perfect.
involved with a lot of those meetings.
perfect. Okay, and then I see that from our original, when we had this originally, I believe the price was 98,000. Does that sound about right?
That's correct. That was
Okay.
for the vestibule entrance.
Okay. And included in that was a sidewalk.
That was the frostproof slab and the sidewalk to take us out to the parking lot.
Is that sidewalk, who's completing that work now? I don't see that on the contractor.
That's going to be done by our guys, the service department.
Okay.
Our guys will pour that sidewalk.
All right, and I don't want to ask you any finance questions, but maybe if we have time that we can get the mayor involved or somebody that's, here to represent the mayor, to talk about that, because it looks like that's been raised. We went from 98,000 to 110,000.
That's inclusive of the change to the tax department.
Okay,
That's
the
why that
additional-
number increased. Decreased by the sidewalk work, increased by the cost of the work to go into the tax department.
Okay. That's all the questions that I had for Mr. Hurst at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Ted. Ted, thanks for coming up to the mic first off. Ted, I just want to address that flooring, okay? You had said sanding, so that floor, that parquet floor that's in that community room now, is that what's going to stay?
That will be completely refinished, yes. There's a big section of it that's going to be replaced, and then it's all going to be sanded and stripped and restained so it'll look like a new floor.
Okay, so none of the carpet that's been talked about will be in there, or
The carpet
hallway?
was removed, and I'm going to speak on what I know of that. There are concerns from the carpet standpoint that we lose the use of the building or that facility area for several programs. Pee Wee basketball, aerobics, jazzercise, it doesn't work on carpeted floors. So the concern is that we're condensing everything to the facility as it is, and now we're possibly losing in another room. That's why they chose to, or made the decision, to remove the carpet, so that they still had the hardwood and the use of that room.
Okay,
That's my understanding.
so going by what you just said, that will be a multi-purpose room still, even though, it's
Un-
being laid out for.
Under the previous mayor and under this mayor, the pretense has been that this is going to be a community room first, and we will hold a council meetings there and our court there as well, but it will remain community room first. So we don't want to lose that. That's, both administrations have felt that same way. We want this to be community room. It's from what I understand, the programs that we have in that room will ultimately be eliminated if we use carpet. And I think,
Okay, and if I can, I'd like to go to the rec director on some of this and get your feelings on this, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman. That is correct. People have to remember this is a recreation department first, and that particular room, the community room, already had a number of programs, and it is a multi-purpose facility. So the transition from evenings that there may be a council, a caucus meeting, a board of zoning, civil service commission, planning commission, any purpose like that, mayor's court, and all those kind of things. In addition, there will be other activities in there. Ted mentioned a few. There are a few more. For instance, the seniors are in there each and every week. There are other dance programs. There are athletic programs. There are some other programs that we are hoping to do. You know, so certainly it is the key is it is a multi-purpose facility. And carpet in that kind of area doesn't make sense. We've heard a lot of feedback from a lot of those people in the fitness program. We've heard from others as well. You know, I guess it is something you can go back and forth. What do you prefer? But you have to look at it as a multi-purpose facility. It will be used for so many different things, and it is more valuable to us and useful to us without the carpet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elliott. Ted, a little personal feeling, I mean, I will concur with that. I want that room used the whole time that building's open. I mean, I want to walk by to go do my workout and see whatever, aerobics, pee-wee basketball, whatever, the seniors in there, I definitely want to see that room used. So on that, based off that, are all these things that we need? Are these things that you feel are important to add over to that area over there?
If the questions that are being fielded at City Hall right now and from the people within the facility are concerns. The concerns are with the community room. The concerns are with the new entrance. Those are concerns. That's why it was brought forward. The change to the entrance to the clerk of courts area was a security issue. It wasn't something that somebody just brought up on a whim. It was brought forward to the attention of myself and others by the police department in the city of Brook Park. So that's where this all transpired. How do we get a separate entrance in there to separate the two facilities on court day? Well, there's not a lot of options. In fact, there's only two, and you have them both. The proposed plan to bring them in the front of the rec center, or the plan that's before you right now. There are no other options, unless you want to drop them through the roof.
Right, we want to do the right thing. We don't want a year or 5 years from now go, "Oh, why didn't we do that? Or why didn't we put this in?" So I would, you know, maybe feel that we'd want to get it all right now.
Everybody has opinions on whether we need it, whether we don't need it, whether it's good or whether it's bad. That's not my position. My position is tell you have two options. The proposed plan that is before you or the previous plan is the only two. There aren't any other ways. There's other ways, but you're not talking about the same dollars and cents. You're talking about big money. And I don't think that's something
And
that
if
we
there,
can do.
and I'll finish on this, and if there's a holdup, will the cost increase? Is there chances of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to recess discussion of this portion of caucus, because we do have a following council meeting due to start, and then we will come back to it. We'll end up adjourning or recessing the caucus meeting and coming back to it after we complete the council meeting. Need a motion to recess
Mr.
discussion.
Chairman, before you recess, I'd like to make a motion to add
got it.
this resolution to tonight's caucus agenda, with the resolution that was passed out.
Motion to add a resolution to tonight's caucus discussion,
Support.
properly supported.
Recess that discussion first.
Discussion on it.
I'm just going to move it to the council meeting. We're not going to talk about it now.
Seeing no discussion, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to add this resolution to tonight's council agenda.
Support.
Motion added to tonight's council agenda, properly supported. Discussion. Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Motion's approved. That'll be under letter M. Resolution number will be 11-2018. Anybody, Mr. Salvatore is looking for co-sponsors. If anybody is interested, show your hands. Myself, everybody.
Council on the whole, okay, good.
Beyond that.
Through the chair.
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Elliott's got a comment. Could we?
Mark, let's make it a quick one, and we'll jump back to it when we,
Mr. President, the purpose of this to be on tonight's, I understand there's a council meeting tonight, but the purpose was to try to get this supported and passed this evening, because we just continue to delay the project. So it is something that needs to be addressed. You know,
right, I understand that, but due to our
we're
time
making
constraint.
motions on other things and getting away from something that needs to be addressed. And I just want to remind you all of that. And I tried to get your attention prior to the motions being made, so we didn't get away from that.
Mr. Salvatore.
Through the chair to Finance Director. Greg, if this should pass tonight, again, can you pay for this project without the budget being passed?
Through the chair to Councilman Salvatore, by the time this work's completed, the budget hopefully will be passed.
I know
Budget needs to
that-
be passed by the end of March. This work will take, I'm sure, more than a week and a half to finish.
But that doesn't answer my question. Can this be paid for without the budget being passed?
Through the chair to Councilman Salvatore, no.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to recess the caucus meeting and return to it after the council meeting. Where we left off in discussion, yes.
I'll make the motion to recess our caucus.
I'll support it.
Motion to recess caucus, properly supported, discussion. Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yeah.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio.
Yes.
Caucus meeting is recessed at 7:35. Get into it. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 20th, 2018 council meeting for the city of Brook Park. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott,
Here.
Bergio.
Here.
Orcutt,
Here.
Stem,
Here.
Mancini. Poindexter,
Here.
Salvatore,
Here.
Everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to item C, approval of minutes of preceding meetings. First one is the caucus prior to the council meeting held on March 6, 2018.
Motion to approve
as
those
presented.
caucus minute
Support.
meetings unless.
Motion made by Mr. Mancini, properly supported by Mr. Salvatore. Discussion? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Mancini.
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Those minutes have been approved. Item number 2, regular council meeting minutes held on March 6, 2018.
Motion to accept as written.
Support.
Motion to accept, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Orcutt.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore.
I'd like to make a motion to go out of the regular order of business and go to item M.
Support.
Motion to go out of regular order of business, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Motion has been approved. Moving to letter M, introduction of ordinances and resolutions for first reading.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Resolution 11-2018, introduced by Councilman Salvatore and council as a whole, honoring Southwest Community Health Foundation for achievements and recognition and excellence and declaring an emergency. Whereas Southwest General was founded in 1920 by local residents as a hospital committed to supporting the community. And whereas Southwest General maintains strong ties to the greater Cleveland area through its quality medical services, its partnerships with university hospitals and local community organizations, and its many community benefit programs promoting health and wellness. And whereas under the leadership of President and CEO William Young Jr. and the System Board's Chairman Dr. Pendrini, Southwest Community Health Foundation received prestigious awards and achievements of excellence in care. And whereas Southwest General holds recognition by the Emergency Nurses Association for an exemplary main campus emergency department, and whereas Southwest General received straight A's in excellence in hospital patient safety, and whereas Southwest General is a 2017 Action Registry Platinum Performance Achievement Award winner, and whereas Southwest General holds certification from the Joint Commission Heart Failure and Primary Stroke Center, and whereas Southwest General received Cigna Centers of Excellence for Joint Replacement and Cardiac Cath and Angioplasty, and whereas Southwest General holds a 3-star rating from the Society of Thoracic Surgeons for Coronary Artery Bypass Graft, and whereas Southwest General received the Gold Quality Achievement Award from the American Heart Association's Get With the Guidelines, and whereas Southwest General holds a Mission Lifeline NSTMI Performance Achievement Award, whereas Southwest General received the American Heart Association's Get With the Guidelines Stroke Gold Plus Achievement Award, and whereas Southwest General was designated as a Blue Distinction Center for Cardiac Care, Knee and Hip Replacement, Spine Surgery, and Maternity Care, and whereas the hospital's mission is health is our passion, quality is our focus, compassion is our way. Now therefore be it resolved by this council of the city of Brook Park, county of Cuyahoga, state of Ohio, that the council and mayor of the city of Brook Park hereby recognizes and congratulates Southwest General Community Health Foundation on its many achievements and awards and excellence in care they have received. That the clerk of this council be and hereby authorized and directed to certify this resolution to William Young Jr., President and CEO of Southwest Community Health Foundation, and the Systems Board Chairman, Dr. Pandrini. Section 3, that is found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that result in such formal actions were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements. That this resolution is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, property, health, safety, and welfare, and for the further reason recognizing Southwest Community Health Foundation for their excellence in care. Therefore, this resolution shall take effect and be enforced immediately from and after its passage and approval by the mayor.
Motion to suspend?
Support.
Motion to suspend, properly supported. Discussion? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll on suspension.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Pergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Support.
Motion to adopt, properly supported. Discussion? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll on adoption.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Pergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Resolution 11-2018 has been adopted. Mr. Salvatore, the presentation, sir.
I'm losing my hair, you're limping. I'd just like to say that I am very proud to be standing with these two gentlemen who have really have had a tremendous opportunity to work with Dr. Pandrangi. Not to mention that he made me look a little cuter when he took off a little scar on my face. Excellent surgeon, by the way. And then the addition of our new CEO, he's not new anymore. He's a winner. He's a great leader. If anybody's had any opportunity to spend any time at all at Southwest, what he's done with that hospital is unbelievable. The way people treat you, everybody can't wait to get to work. The employees are just, they're outstanding. I'm very proud to be standing here with these two gentlemen presenting this resolution. I've had many nights in the hospital myself, and I've been treated like a king there, and I hope it continues. I hope I'm still a patient there 20 years from now. But on behalf of the mayor of the city of Brook Park, I present this award to you, and hopefully you'll hang it proudly in your office. I apologize to you because we misspelled your name. They thought you were Italian. So they changed it a little bit. I'll fix it, though. We'll correct it. I'll bring over the corrected version. But I'd like to turn the microphone over to you if you'd like to say
Thank you,
anything.
Rick.
Thank you.
Just on behalf of Southwest General, the staff, our physicians, our volunteers, thank you very much for this. We're very proud of the quality, safety, and the patient experience that we present to the people that come to the hospital. And we take very seriously the fact that we're serving the community out here, and we appreciate the support that you guys have provided to us. We couldn't do it without the people in the community. You know, we have over 600 volunteers that give back to the hospital, and we're very proud of that fact. And we take it very seriously, the fact that we're responsible for the health of the folks in our communities that we serve. So thank you very much for this recognition. We appreciate it. And we will share this with the staff, we'll share this with our boards, and we're very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, I've been here practicing since 1980. Some of you might have heard my name as a provider of health care for you or your family. This is a high honor for us to have the city recognize what we do every day and night, and we appreciate the support you provide to us, and we are happy to be of help to anybody that seeks care at Southwest. Medical staff, management, nurses, everybody pulls on one side to make the patient experience the best it is possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before they go, excuse me, gentlemen, before you go. Thank you, Council President. I had a procedure done there last Thursday. I had an upper endoscope, and I was very nervous. But Dr. Issa, he's very confident and very really put me at ease with his ability, and him and the staff. They made me feel comfortable the entire process. And I would like to thank Dr. Issa and his whole staff. If you can maybe express my gratitude to them. So first it's Dr. Issa, and then his RNs Jen, Mel, Tanya, Violet, Karen C, and Libby, and then Katina in post-op, and the volunteer Dottie.
Okay.
All of them, top to bottom, they took care of me from the time I got there, and I was nervous, to the time I left, and I was kind of hazy going out the door, but they made sure everything worked very well, and I really thank them.
Very good. Well, thank you, and I'm very much familiar with those folks, and we will make sure that Dr. Issa knows and the staff down there, they do a fantastic job. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Mr. Mancini has something he wants to say, but you may want to take a seat. It could be a little bit.
It won't be. It won't be. I'll make it short because there's too many people there to thank. I had 3 surgeries since 2014, 2 hips, hernia, and it went great. I'm 100% better for it. To thank everybody, Ortho West, everybody there, everybody in the hospital. It was great. My dad's been in there, fantastic. Don't you think, Council President? Good experience there. But thank you for letting me talk, and thank you, and thanks Southwest. Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Mancini.
very much for sharing that. We appreciate that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you,
in. Thanks
guys.
for being part of the
Very
community.
much.
All right, take a motion to go back to the regular order of business.
So made,
So
Mr.
made.
Chairman.
Support.
Motion to go back to the regular order of business, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Hershio,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
All right, back to the regular order of business, back to letter D. Reports of standing committees, Aviation and Environmental, Councilman Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. The Aviation Environmental Committee has nothing on tonight's agenda as far as legislation, but I would like to report on the Big Creek Watershed meeting that was held on March 7th. I'll just give a brief report. It was loaded with information. It was about a 3-hour meeting, and I'll just kind of touch on a lot of the subjects they covered. So basically, the group is it's called Big Creek Connects. They're a group made up of city leaders from the 8 municipalities that make up the Big Creek watershed: Brook Park, Cleveland, Parma, Parma Heights, Brooklyn, Lindale, Middleborough Heights, and North Royalton. The group's also made up of representatives from the Northeast Ohio Sewer District, the Metro Parks, the Water Department, and many community groups. So just a little bit about the Big Creek watershed. It's a tributary to the Cuyahoga River watershed, and over 90% of the land in the Big Creek watershed is developed, which makes it the most urbanized watershed in the Cuyahoga River watershed system. Brook Park is part of the Big Creek watershed because of the stormwater and a lot of our stormwater and melted snow trickles into Kalita Creek, which starts pretty much just south of Holy Cross Cemetery, and then it travels north under Brook Park Road. It eventually empties into the west branch of the Big Creek, then eventually dumps into the Big Creek, eventually flowing into the Cuyahoga River. The Big Creek watershed has several projects upcoming. They're going to be installing signage at all creek crossings and routes that enter and exit the watershed area, so that way people are aware where they are, and they're careful about what they're dumping and what chemicals they're using, and things of that sort in those areas. That project was funded by a grant from General Motors over in Parma. So they'll be putting, I think they said, like 15,000 signs all across the different crossings and stuff. Another project is they'll be repairing a section of the Big Creek where the grade separates over by Brookside Park. I guess that's Brooklyn there. And then they're going to have a community clean-out day of all the streams and creeks and culverts that feed into the Big Creek. So that's something to look forward to from that group. But one of the main reasons why I was so eager about going is to maybe come up with some tips for us to implement as a city that may alleviate some of our water challenges that we have from time to time. And some kind of small scale things that can have like big impacts include like maybe we can implement like rain gardens. They're basically little they basically allow water runoff from roofs and driveways and stuff to be absorbed into the garden instead of overloading the storm drainage systems. They presented data where in the streets that they implemented these rain gardens, they were able to reduce stormwater runoff by almost 40% on that street by just implementing rain gardens. It's basically like a little garden that the water flows down into like a little low area, and then the garden actually absorbs that water, and it's alleviating some stress off of the water drainage systems. Another simple idea that we'd have to do more research on would be like just disconnecting downspouts during like big rains. Maybe have it people set up on their houses where they can just disconnect the downspout and let the ground itself absorb the water more than the drainage systems. Rain barrels are a potential way to alleviate some of that pressure on the system also. And one of the more aggressive approaches would be to demolish development that is in the natural low-lying areas where, you know, the natural retention areas are, you know, nature has a way of like dealing with the water in its own way. And, you know, back when Brook Park was being developed and there was a big need for housing, people built on those areas. So that kind of is one of the reasons why we have the issue. So, I mean, that's just a suggestion, and I wouldn't want to see anyone's house be demolished, but maybe long-term combating this over and over again might be an option that we'd have to explore. But, so those are basically some of the tips that I got from that meeting. But, so from that meeting, I made a few contacts with some members of the committee. One in particular is a Brook Park resident, Mel Hauser, who is also a member of the Rocky River watershed team. Over the next few weeks, I plan on meeting with several of these members to discuss the different progress the organization is making and any other potential items that may benefit Brook Park in the future. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Finance Committee, Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finance Committee met today. We had 15 items on the Board of Controls. We signed 15 items. And I have nothing on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislative Committee, Councilman Mancini.
I have nothing tonight, and if anybody would like anything brought out, please give me advance notice. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At last week's Rec Commission meeting, Director Elliott presented some of his ideas and what he'd like to see for capital improvements for this year. One being the community room kitchen, front desk area, the concession area, and again, the game room area. So I'm sure that Director Elliott will be elaborating on some of those topics during his report. He also discussed with the commission about facility rental and room rental. He brought several ideas to the meeting from other communities, how they address that issue, and I'm sure there'll be more information coming forward in the next few weeks on that issue. And just a few announcements. The March Madness event will be March 23rd from 8 to midnight. The Easter egg hunt is still scheduled for March 31st. We're beginning at 10 a.m. And baseball, softball, and tennis registrations are all extended, but I wouldn't expect them to be extended much past next week. So if you're at home watching, make sure you get your children down to the rec center and get signed up. The golf clinic will be on May 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd in the mini gym. And the director is working on some classes for coaches and players, baseball and softball clinics, with more information to follow on that. And finally, Director Elliott took the commission on a walkthrough for all the updates in the rec center under construction, as well as the new city hall. And it appears as if things are moving along very smoothly, slow but sure, to say the least, but there'll be more coming forward on that project too as well. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Planning Committee, Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned during my last report, the Planning Committee meeting was canceled due to no applicants in the March meeting. The next meeting will be April 2nd. I'll have a report for council after that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bergio. Safety Committee, Councilman Stem.
Thank you, Council President. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend Neighborhood Watch meeting yesterday due to a double booking. However, the next meeting, April 23rd, is very important. It's in regards to human trafficking. There's going to be a lot of information there. Parents are encouraged to come. I mean, this is impacting every community. It's at 7 p.m. at the Brook Park Library. That's April 23rd. Thank you. That ends my report.
Thank you, Councilman Stem. Service Committee, Councilman Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few reminders that April 14th, the city will be providing a Shred-It Day for all the residents. That's between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. That's going to be located up at the Service Department. April 9th, that will be the day that the Service Department opens up for yard waste. And then the last that we have here is with spring cleaning coming up and everybody preparing for that, if you do plan on having any bulk pickups, that is the second Monday of every month. And to get on that list, you have to call the Friday before 12 o'clock. That completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Orcutt. Board of Zoning Appeals, Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board of Zoning, we haven't met since my last report. Again, we do have something on the agenda for April 2nd. And if you don't mind, I'd like to say a little something about the Citizen of the Year Committee.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. The nominations were turned in. Friday was last day to turn the nominations in. We have 8 new nominations, and we have 4 returning from last year. We made a decision last year to roll over anybody that was not selected from the previous year. So as it stands right now, we have 12 people nominated for Citizen of the Year Committee. We're meeting this Thursday, March 22nd at 6:30 here. You're more than welcome to come. That would be first of 2 more meetings. We'll have 2 more meetings after that. And the final selection will be made on April 5th. And again, the person that is selected as Citizen of the Year will be the Grand Marshal of the Home Days Parade. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Scott. Moving on to letter E, reports of special committees, Southwest General Health Center, Trustee Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to thank all of council for allowing the resolution to move so quickly through the system and allowing me to make the presentation to our great hospital, of which we're a major part of. The next meeting will be held on March 28th, and I'll have a report after that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Berea Board of Education Committee, Mrs. McDonald.
Good evening, everyone. Updates for Berea City Schools are as follows. Berea Mid-Park High School is going to be performing Oklahoma this year. Tickets are $10 at the door. You can do an $11 online pre-sale, and you can actually go to the website to get that information. There is a senior citizen open dress rehearsal at 4 p.m. on Thursday, April 19th for $3. Show times are going to be Friday, April 20th at 7:30, Saturday, April 21st at 2:30, Saturday, April 21st, 7:30, and Sunday, April 22nd at 2:30 p.m. This past week, our students at our junior high as well as our high school participated in the National Walkout. Approximately 300 students at the high school and the junior high participated on March 14th. It was sponsored as a Walk for Change as part of the National School Walkout. A number of student leader organizations joined together and asked for school support in facilitating a safe and orderly walkout to honor the victims of school violence. Recognizing our students' legitimate concerns and voices, calling for a change and a greater effort towards school safety, we, the school district, especially the high school and the junior high, help facilitate a safe and orderly event. Any student who wished to participate in the event was able to, but was not required to do so if they did not feel comfortable. In addition, at the high school and the junior high, there were stations set up that talked about voter registration, the Sandy Hook Promise, a banner for the high school in Florida, a Make Your Voice Heard, which was contact information for local and state representatives, safe school surveys, how to stay informed, and Ford Immediate chose to use their participation in the Sandy Hook Promise to come up with ways that they can help support students who might not necessarily always have a friend at school. Construction updates, remember you can go to the website, there's pictures there if you want to check it out and see what all the exciting things that are happening right now. There's a new electrical room addition at Big Creek. There's new windows installed at the junior high. There's new roof curbs for a rooftop unit on the gym. There's new gas line on the gym at the junior high. There's new flooring in the MEC, which will be, the majority of the MEC will be the 5th grade portion of the building, and new windows were installed at the MEC. Also, this past weekend, the PTA, National PTA, so held by Johnny Charlie, hosted a resource fair for our community. If anyone is interested in the resource manual, it is up on the website, and that was a list of organizations that provide opportunities for students with disabilities as well as without. And finally, kindergarten registration is now open for the 2018-29 school year. If you know of anyone who has a child who will be 5 on or before August 18th, they're eligible for kindergarten. Registration is now completely online. Or if you need to, you can call the Berea Board of Education and schedule an appointment. Just a reminder that only the child's parent or legal guardian may register the student. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Mr. Poindexter, do you have anything to add?
I'd just like to add that the Berea Mid-Park High School girls basketball softball season kicks off this Saturday with a doubleheader against Strongsville at home. I'm partial to that because my daughter plays, so I just wanted to add that.
Couldn't see the excitement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to letter F, reports of boards and commissions. We have none this evening. Letter G, introductions of resolutions of commendation. We have none of those. Letter H, reports and communications from the mayor. The mayor is out of town, so he will give an update at the next meeting. Letter I, reports and communications from departments, commissions, and other public officials. We'll start with Finance Department, Mr. Single.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A brief update from the Tax Department. The window hours for the Tax Department are from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. No appointment is necessary. Assistance is provided for residents preparing and filing city income tax returns. Also, Mr. Chairman and members of council and the residents of the city, the Tax Department will have extended hours on the following Tuesdays until 7 p.m. March 27th, April 3rd, April 10th, and April 17th, which in fact is tax day. The Tax Department will also be open on the following Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. That's Saturday, April 7th, and Saturday, April 14th. And also, Mr. Chairman and members of council, as we work through the budget process, if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. And that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Single. Moving on to the Recreation Director, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things to add. I thought Mr. Salvatore did a great update. I would just add that recently I did meet with the library director and staff just to see if we can cross-promote some programs that they do and us and pass on information, so that went really, really well. Construction-wise, we get a lot of questions on a daily basis. Probably the most popular is when the locker rooms will open in the steam sauna whirlpool. There was a setback in that area with the whirlpools, but it is currently, all of the problems have been identified. Brewer Garrett will take the responsibility to correct all of those. And so here over the next week or two, there'll be some dye testing done. All of the mechanical equipment to repair those are in, so it is a little more extensive than we initially thought, but that will get corrected and we'll get those open as soon as we can. And other than that, that's all that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Move on to the Law Director, Ms. Horvath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next week, I will update the list of pending litigation with the city. Currently, everything is status quo, but I expect within a week or so some changes, and I'll provide that update. There may be a need next week also for an executive session with regard to pending legal matters, and I'll indicate that as soon as that seems to be appropriate. Other than that, I have no further report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horvath. Service Director, Mr. Garner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're continuing to patch holes, making temporary repairs to anything we're driving our routes and looking into that. We're off our winter schedule, so we're into the summer schedule. I'd like to thank my mechanics. They're got all of our summer stuff prepped, asphalt equipment, vectors, street sweepers, mowers, tractors. Everything's moving along, ready to start the grass cutting season. We actually prepped a baseball field this week, if the weather holds. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Moving to the engineer, last but not least, Mr. Piatek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to keep council informed that Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District is currently underway with the Rocky River Stormwater Master Plan study. The purpose of this study is to identify problems and to establish a basis for recommended cost-effective stormwater solutions in the Rocky River watershed. Personnel from consulting firms under contract with the sewer district will be performing field inspections and data collection in some of the creeks and waterways that are under the regional stormwater system and our local stormwater system. These inspections are scheduled to take place between April and September of this year. So if you see somebody out walking around in your backyard or in the stream or the creek, hopefully they're going to be easily identified as personnel from these consulting firms, but that's more than likely what they're going to be doing. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Piatek. Council, questions for any of the directors? Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the Recreation Director, Director Elliott. I'm glad to hear that in your report that you mentioned that Brewer Garrett was going to take care of the problem that the little minor setback that you mentioned in your report. And I'm glad you're on top of it. It's good to see the contractors keep their feet to the fire on anything that may go wrong, and that they're willing to stand up and correct any issues that may come forward. And I want to thank you for staying on top of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Anyone else? Mr. Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to our Service Director. Randy, you mentioned we're entering that summer period, which sounds pretty good to me. Now, during this period, every year, spring and summer, that's when we usually get those 1,000-year rains, big ones coming up that happen almost every year. Do we have any kind of planning for that or any kind of prevention of that, like maybe making sure all the sewers are not clogged? Do we do that? Is that an ongoing thing that we do?
Yes, sir. The vectors are going out, will be going out, and we've identified some that are blocked, and then we're going to start a route plan and try to just work streets at a time and try to keep that going.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bergio. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, through the chair to Carol, have you been able to find out if cities can be held liable for anything that happens with if we do go ahead with the little pantry?
Through the chair to Councilman Scott, I'm at present reviewing the federal statute we referred to at the last meeting, but I'm pretty confident that we should be able to go forward. Obviously, the city's liability would lie in having the pantry on city property at the police department, and also as a participant in the entire program. It's my intention, and I have begun to contact our city liability insurance carrier to see if they have any thoughts on the matter also. But I'm very confident that we would be able to do this without incurring any additional liability.
That'd be super. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Through the chair again.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Mr. Gardner, how you doing, buddy? Hey, can you tell me the sewer on Michael by Parkman? That was called in. Do you know how? Is that on the list?
I'm not aware of what you're talking about with sewer.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get back to you again. There's sewer on Michael by Parkman. They got barrels by it. I didn't know if there was any. Okay.
I'll have to check into it. I'm not sure where you're referring.
Okay. I'll get back to you. I'll call you tomorrow. Thanks.
Mr. Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chairman to the service director, Mr. Gardner, I have a question about the Vector. Do you have a crew that goes out every single day performing preventive maintenance with that machine?
I have a wish crew. They go out pretty regularly. They're not assigned every day. They do have other tasks that they do dig jobs, and then they're back on the crew. That Vector has not put into service yet because of the weather. They were out today. We do plan on running it as much as possible.
Perfect, so it's sporadic. Would you say that in the past, we're more reactive, or do we get to the preventive maintenance schedules as well? Do we mix it in with everyday tasks that have to do with the ball field and garbage and all that other stuff?
Best I can tell right now is reactive. I'm trying to work towards a proactive plan. Limited manpower will probably play a part in that, but I'm trying to put it out as much as possible because I believe there's some funds available to work towards stormwater, so we're working on that, so.
Excellent, thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the law director, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the residents and the airport acquisition program for the letter they received. I received a couple calls saying that they were happy to be aware of what's going on, and I would ask to maybe continue that as things change. If you could reach out to them, that would be great. But again, thank you for that letter, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Mr. Mancini.
I didn't even have my hand up yet. So. Thank you,
had it up
Mr.
before, sir. I
Chairman.
caught you.
Through the chair to the law director, Carol, thank you very much on the resolution I got tonight coming, on to work on that, and I have a few more coming and a few other things. I appreciate that. Really no question, but I thank you. To the service director, Randy, I'm kind of gonna bounce off Councilman Orcutt. Is the sweeper been out yet? I know you hit a good point there with the short of staff too, so is the sweeper out yet?
That should be out starting April 26th, and hopefully that'll be a regular, we're going to try to keep the driver on that every day.
Okay, all right, thank you. And if I could, one more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through the chair to the Recreation Director, Mark, good report, good everything tonight. I know we're not done. First off, how the baseball signups going?
Fine.
Okay, good, we're
Yeah,
at
the thought was that they were slower because we extended them. That's not true. We just extended them because there is still some time. We start taking signups a lot earlier probably than in the past, so there's still plenty of room, but the signups are have gone very well.
Well, that's good to hear. And it was also good to hear about the kids' room. I mean, I know that's a big thing. I mean, Councilman Stem and Councilman Poindexter, actually all of us that, we're there, we hear people say they want that, and I know the kids after school want that, so that's good to hear. I know we kind of discussed the other day about maybe a senior room. Is there any potential maybe for that down the road? A senior room somewhat where the seniors could just go? Are we looking at anything?
Well, I spoke with you the other day in a little bit more detail. Probably tonight is not the right time to speak to that, but we will address that a little bit more. We are working on freeing up some other space in addition to the game room that we want to do. So we will address that to free up some other space and bring more ability for many other groups to share in that space, not just the seniors but others.
That's very good to hear.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm looking forward for that discussion. Thank you. And Ed, I'll leave you alone tonight. Greg, you could pass too, so that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Anyone else? Before we close this section out, Mr. Garner, I'd like to personally thank you for the attention to my neighbor's driveway complaint and what you guys did over there. Great job and very timely. Thank you. All right, moving on to letter J. Other communication petitions and verbal approval, introduction of new legislation. Two items that are on at the moment under verbal approval. One is the appointment of Councilman Bergio to the CRA Housing Council.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Bergio properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Welcome back, Mr. Bergio.
Thank you, Council.
Number two, appointment of Councilman Mancini to the CRA Housing Council.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion to approve, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Mancini, you have some big shoes to fill.
Thank you. I work hard.
We have two items to add. One, introduced by Councilman Mancini, a resolution authorizing and directing the placement of a veteran Purple Heart parking space in all municipal parking lots. I will assign this to the Legislative Committee. Second is a resolution requesting the administration, members of council, and the electorate of the city of Brook Park support a renewal of the 2018 Cuyahoga Health and Human Services levy and declare an emergency. I will also place this in the Legislative Committee. Nothing else under letter J. Moving to letter K, miscellaneous business appointments and confirmations. We have none this evening. Letter L, remarks from the audience on any subject matter. Anyone who would like to come to the microphone, to the podium, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we will move on. We've already spoken on letter M. We're going to move to letter N, second reading of ordinances and resolutions. We have none this evening. Letter O, third reading of ordinances and resolutions. There are none this evening also. Letter P is adjournment of the council meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion to adjourn properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll on adjournment.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Regular council meeting is adjourned at 8:21. I will accept a motion to reconvene the caucus meeting.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Motion to reconvene properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Mancini, Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Scott.
All right, the March 20th, 2018 caucus meeting is back in session. We are in item 3, number 2, which is the discussion under an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a change order between Brewer Garrett Company and the city of Brook Park to change plans in the vestibule area and other areas of the John A. Pawnee Community Center and declaring an emergency, introduced by Mayor Gamella per Council President Vecchio. At the time we recessed, we had our building commissioner, Mr. Ted Hurst, at the podium. If Ted would like to come back up, I'll open the floor back up for that discussion. Sorry?
Yeah, it was already done.
I'm sorry, you are correct, Mr. Mancini. I didn't have you marked. Mr. Mancini had the floor at that time. Continue on, Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I go back to Ted, Mr. Elliott, would you like to continue?
Councilman, the purpose of my trying to interrupt at the time was to try to get council, I don't know if it was an oversight or not, but the purpose was to not go out of the order because we needed, and we really it would have been great if we could have got that passed, because it needed to get placed on tonight's council meeting and then get passed with the intention that the work would be done. And I'm sure that the budget will be passed by the end of the month. So everything would have been fine. This just delays it. I was trying to prevent that from being placed during this time, because regardless of the discussion, it'll be delayed another week and get placed on your next agenda.
Okay, all right.
Okay? That's
Okay,
all it was.
thank you. No, thank you.
You can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore, Councilman Salvatore. Through the chairman, Mr. Salvatore, back to Ted. Ted, if I could just wrap it up with one more. Any of this work that is listed, that we have down listed, is any of this somewhat started yet or anything? I probably presume not, but is any of it started or is?
No,
Okay.
no, there's things being held up until this decision is made.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the finance director, the cost for this is to come out of the proposed capital improvements budget. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councilman Poindexter, that's correct.
Was this item already taken into consideration when the proposed budget was put together, or is this coming, out of the pot that, was it taken into consideration when the budget was prepared?
It was. It's been properly appropriated.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Stem.
Thank you, Council President. This is following up the Councilman Mancini's question prior to our council meeting. In regards to the carpeting, to be financially responsible, I mean, the city already purchased it. And I feel, it should still be installed in the community room and down the hallway as planned. I mean, I've looked at the locker rooms, and with the new carpeting and the paint and the molding, it really pops. It makes it come alive, and you feel like you're in a new venue. So, the existing tile's cracked, it's not level, certain areas are coming up. As far as events in the community room that require parquet, it could be possible to use the mini gym or the gymnasium itself during scheduled times. And then the west end door, we briefly talked about it before as an ingress and egress for Mayor's Court. I really think we should explore options on that before making a commitment on anything. As far as financing, I mean, is there ways possibly to pay online for the violations or mail-in, or, we could possibly set up Skype meetings through the police department for arraignments and hearings? I think there's a lot to talk about with this, and I wish the mayor was here tonight, but that's not the case. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Stem. Anyone else? Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, if I could make a comment to Councilman Stem. I said earlier, it does boil down to be a preference, and I respect all your comments. I would tell you, let's just talk about the carpet, for instance. Historic, I could go back in history with the Recreation Department and as the mayor in the community. We had carpeting up that hallway, and it is very difficult to maintain. The first 2 months of this year, in January and February, if at any time, and you were there every single Saturday.
Sure.
If you came in the building on a Saturday, very easily 1,500 people will probably come through that on any given day. The amount of salt and traffic and all that comes into it, from the lobby all the way down that hallway, would have been destroyed at this point in just 2 months. So I would think for that purpose alone, it makes sense to take another look at that as consideration. The hallway, there is maybe one or two places where there is a crack in the tile. That will be replaced. We have purposely not replaced that at this point because we have contractors that come from one end of the building to the other with carts and equipment, so it doesn't make sense to do that. When I first became the recreation director this past year, the floor was a disaster. It had not been waxed or taken care of for a long, long time. So we did strip it, wax it, we cleaned it up a little bit, and we will do that again once the project is completed. So I would just tell you from a standpoint of, and we're a building, Councilman, please, and I say this with all due respect, we are not a facility that is adult only. Okay, now that is very important. We have kids in there every single day. We have vending machines, we have concession stands that are open. We have kids they're bringing pizzas there. They're eating pretzels and cheese and soft drinks, and teams are having parties, and there's a lot of reasons why not to have carpet in that area. It's not, I think we're looking at this as if it's us versus them. It's not that. It is what's most practical for our facility, and consider who uses our facility. That's really what it comes down to. Already, we've talked about too, where the blue squares are there, is to change those, pop those out, and place in maybe it's some charcoal, something else that is related to the color scheme that's there now. So that's very easily to be done. Again, that would be done though at the end of the project. So there are a lot of those kind of things that I think are just really practical and common sense. And if I can make a statement on the whole entrance to the community room council area. Again, it is an area that you have to remember, there's probably 8, 9, 10 different programs that we're using the community room from a recreation standpoint. So now you're going to take those 8, 9, 10 programs and you're going to combine them with caucus meetings and city council meetings and board of zoning and civil service and planning and mayor's court, tax review and mediation and so on. So there are a lot of uses that are going to go on in that room, a lot of setup and tear down. And I think a lot of those areas just take a little bit more of a beating. And so from that standpoint, and the feedback that we get from a lot of the people that are teaching those programs makes a lot of sense. The doorway in that room, from a mayor's court standpoint, that was first initially brought to everybody's attention from the police department, respectfully, feeling as if it makes sense if there is another area, and it is safety. I use this example for others, and again, everybody can have an opinion. This is just one person's opinion. The original plan is you would come into the building, you immediately, when you first enter the building, you will go right to the left, you'll pay a ticket. Where you pay that ticket, there's supposed to be a bulletproof glass. 15 feet from that bulletproof glass in that lobby, there's a mom and dad signing up their little ones for t-ball or basketball or football or soccer or any particular class. Think about that. There's a bulletproof glass there, and 15 feet away, there's just mom, dad, and our staff taking registrations. So and people could say, well, it doesn't happen, it's never going to happen. You know what? We never thought that some movie theater in Colorado that would happen. We never thought it would happen in all these schools that it seems to be happening. It happened again today. Happens in many schools, and happened in Beechwood Mall again, just the other day. It can happen anywhere. So for the fact that you are erring in safety, I think is a great thing. The community, I believe, as a whole, thinks that's a great thing. So those are just some things from a guy who served in a few different positions here in the community and is now currently your recreation director. And I spent a lifetime and a career helping and being around kids and families. And if we think that much of them, it's not even a tough decision from my seat, but it is one that I think needs to be made. And if you look at the amount of money that we are spending for the project over the life of that payback, the 20 years, I don't think that's a lot of money. In addition, in my capital budget, you will find, and I've talked to a number of councilmen already, we have a few different projects that weren't included in the original project, that we now have to go back and spend additional dollars. One, for instance, let's just go to the community room and to the council area, okay? We're fixing that room, we're making all these improvements, we're replacing offices for council and for the mayor's clerk, mayor's court clerk, but we're not touching the kitchen. We didn't touch the kitchen at all. So that's a capital improvement piece in the recreation budget. So when this project is done, we'll go in and we will replace the kitchen. Again, it's a multi-use building, so people will use that. Community groups, families will use that kitchen. The front desk, you come into the building, the front desk is, let's just say, weathered, needs to be replaced. That was never included there. The community or the concession stand area, we're gonna do some work in there. Again, that'll be part of our capital budget. And we want to create a small game room, at least for the kids. You know, again, they come to our building after school, and right now they come in, they drop their stuff in the concession area, and they get to the gym. They don't have a lot of things or a lot of places to go. So we hope to help that a little bit, and I've talked to Councilman Mancini, and I've talked to yourself, and all of council. Poindexter, I can go all the way down, Councilman Scott, Councilman Orcutt, Councilman Bergio, Councilman Salvatore. Talked to all of you about that. We all want places for people to go. So, you know, these are just helping us make, we're there to try to make some of these things happen, but they weren't included. But yet we'll talk about things like carpeting. I don't think that's the importance. Our priorities are a little bit out of whack. I think we need to find places for people, whether it be seniors or the kids, anybody that comes and uses our building. And when they come there, we want them to be safe. To me, that's our priorities, and that's what we should be doing. And some of the other discussions that we're having, I'm not sure we're getting there. We're kind of losing, we're off track a little bit. Let's get back on track and realize what that building's all about. You know, it's going to change. When City Hall and Council gets, it is a big change. So we want to make sure that we are doing all that we can to make sure it is a very smooth transition. And, you know, I've always said to all of you, you know, we're open to ideas, and, you know, let's work together to get those things done. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just before you guys go, Mark, I just want to ask you, is the kitchen currently usable that's in there? And if so, what are the needed or proposed upgrades to it, and why?
Is it usable? It's usable. But Council President, if you come down, we'll go in there, and it needs work. It is just very simply, but it needs to be replaced. It's in bad shape.
And the only reason I ask is, you know, I mean, obviously we're in a wants and a needs predicament within the city with our budget criteria the way it's set right now.
Understand.
So, you know, obviously want to look at it from all aspects to see where we're at. Mr. Stem, go back to you. Sorry.
Thank you, Council President. Just to follow up, I respect Director Elliott's comments, and I appreciate them. You know, I want to put on the record that I was by no mean or any stretch of imagination trying to sacrifice any level of security. I understand the world we live in and what goes on out there. You know, being the chairman of the safety committee, the first time I saw this was a few weeks ago, and I think we have options to explore with the entrance. I'm open to any ideas through this council. So that's my point here. Is I just think we have other avenues to explore with this. Thank you, Council President.
Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. I will agree that it's tragic that we paid for the carpet and aren't going to use it, but I think it would be more tragic to install it and then have to rip it out after paying for it and then have to pay to replace that too. So I think the move to not use the carpet is probably the best long-term plan. I wish somebody would have knew that before we bought the carpet, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm in support of the remodeling of the floors and stuff like that. But about the separate entrance, you know, all the safety factors aside, which are very, you know, very valid points. You know, when people use that room, you know, community groups or exercise groups or what have you, you know, they might need a separate entrance to bring items in and out, you know, without interrupting the daily activities of the rec center. You know, I think, you know, if you try to move something in or out of there on a Saturday morning during basketball season, I think you'd have a heck of a time trying to get through all the people in the lobby. So that's one aspect. Plus, I also think it behooves us to keep the separate areas as separate as we can. I mean, I know we're all moving, 3 different areas, council, mayor's court, city hall, and the rec center all in one area. I think we should try to keep everything as separated as we can. You don't want, rec activity flowing into city hall, just like you don't want mayor's court flowing into the rec or city business flowing into the rec. So, I mean, a separate entrance just for that area, I think is a great idea. And I'm in full support of it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, through the chair to Teddy. This 110,000, 80,000 is to the vestibule, 32,000 or 30-some thousand is towards the wall for the tax room, correct?
That is correct, approximate
Okay, now,
numbers.
and
that
I
is
did
correct.
talk to you about this earlier. You did look at alternative ways to do it over there, but the city will be at a risk to be litigation if for some unknown reason we don't have a complete wall, floor to ceiling, and if any type of tax information is leaked while somebody's in there, the city is could be in hot water for leakage of taxes. Like I said, I do agree on that. I think it's something that we have to have. Now, this is out there. I did a little journey today. Jimmy, you've been over to the Bree Rec Center, correct? Yes. They are carpeted, but they have one room in there that isn't carpeted, correct?
Right.
And what is that floor in there?
That's the senior room?
It's a multi-purpose room, correct?
Yeah, more or less. It's designed for the seniors, and more or less multi-purpose for them.
And that
Whether
is
they
not
do
carpeted.
aerobics, whether they do their little meetings, whether they have their little, like we have with our seniors, our great little Tuesday morning that Joan has with our seniors. And they have TVs in there, but no, there is no carpeting.
no
in there
carpeting
because
in
there is
there.
a lot of activity in there. Obviously, there is at the entrance there. I don't know how or who they have cleaning it all the time. I mean, that could be an issue here with us also. I mean, Service Director Gardner did bring up short staff down at the garage. I imagine, and from what I understand too, and know that we're a little short at the rec. But yes, they do have carpet coming in. It's more of a indoor-outdoor type of, but they do have it.
And basically their community room is a non-carpeted flooring.
Right.
Correct. And I'm totally agree with that. I would think our community room should not be carpeting. Number 2, again, I talked to Mr. Elliott earlier today, and he laughed at me when I told him I was going to go on a road trip to the other rec departments. I went to Middleburg. Middleburg's got a granite floor everywhere. Like I said, Berea's got carpeting. There was one thing that I noticed in both rec centers. Kids. Each rec center, Middleburg and Berea, you had moms coming in there with their kids. Their kids are going to a play area. You go into our rec center during the day, and what do you see? You don't see kids in there. I talked to Mr. Elliott about the improvements in the rec center. That front desk is a sham. We're paying $5.2 million to renovate that building, and you're coming in and you're looking at that desk up front. The formica is being held down by tape. You've got an alarm, a remote system that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. The snack bar area, moving that snack bar back, opening up an area in there for the kids, that's something that the city needs. Okay? That was the one glaring point I saw when I was out to these other rec centers. We have to sometimes bite the bullet. We're talking $45,000 renovation in the rec for a kitchen, for a front desk, for a snack bar to be moved, so that we do have an opportunity to put possibly a game room in there for kids. I would suggest everybody, you go to Berea, you go to Middleburg, that is the one thing you will see. You will see kids everywhere. They have a place to play. They have a place to go. The parents can go, the moms can go do their workout. They can leave their kids with somebody to monitor them. Today I also talked to our clerk of courts. I asked her concerning the window, concerning the bulletproof over the entrance that we have over there. I explained to her what was on the drawings and what is out there right now. And she said, I have 6 main concerns about that. The first one is not all people paying fines are from Brook Park, and she feels there will be a free run over there. They'll come in and they'll just walk around. Number 2, she experienced very abusive verbal language. They've screamed at her. They were very irate. We don't need that for our kids to hear that. Our residents to hear that. Again, there was discussion about the back door being used at the rec center. Teddy, is that not a fire escape? Do we need them doors for fire?
Yes.
And they have to be opened at all times. You have to be able to get out at all times.
Yes, and let me reiterate my position from the building department and the building official in the city. You have 2 options. The originally proposed or this side entrance. You can add entrances all over if you'd like, but you can't block off the back doors. And if you come in the back doors, you're entering the same exact hallway that we're trying to keep them out of.
Correct.
You're walking down that hallway to the tax window. So there are other options. They're extremely costly.
We cannot build a wall back there
You cannot block.
to have the doorway, a walled
Absolutely
off
not.
aisleway into the courthouse. You're
Absolutely
not allowed
not.
to do that. You are totally blocking the back doors back there. That's one of the reasons you can't do. Number 2, like Brian said, that's used for deliveries. I've been there. We've had our banquets there, and that back door is what we use to haul our stuff in and out. And I totally agree with that.
The original plan for the back doors to be used were for the police officers bringing someone from the jail, physically walking them or driving them over to that parking lot, bringing them through the back door and into the courtroom. That was the plan for the back doors regarding this. Everybody else is coming through the front doors, paying tickets, paying fines at the front entrance of the rec center. You can't block off half those doors. Period. It
Okay.
doesn't work.
Another thing about that back door, there's 9 parking spaces back there. I talked to the clerk today. She says during the winter season, they break it down winter and summer season, they have approximately 50 people that come in per court session. So there's no way you're going to park 50 cars back there. During the summer season, as they call it, they have approximately 70 to 80 people in the court sessions per court. And her main objective was, you have a bulletproof glass. She is protected by bulletproof glass. To the right of her is a desk where you have people sitting there that are non-protected. She says the issue with that is they are in grave danger if it does ever happen. She totally endorses the new plan with the separate entrance. And her one thing that she said is her opinion is we have to restrict movement outside of the courtrooms. I know that city's in a crunch for money, for streets. Again, this city, the residents, we have to look into a dedicated revenue stream for our streets, sewers, water line. People, you have to look back and say, what do I want to invest into my city? We cannot continue to do 1.5 million per year in streets. We got $45 million worth of streets that need to be done. 45 million.
More.
Our mayor, he stated it not once, he stated it twice. We have to look at a dedicated revenue stream for our streets. I'm sorry, I campaigned for that when I came out in 2015. Anybody in my ward, if I talked to you, you asked me the questions, I told you, we need a dedicated cash stream for our roads. I'm done being on, I'm off my high horse, but please, think about the city's future. Think about the city's future. We're spending $5.2 million on a renovation on the rec center, community center. We need some minor tweaks there. Hey, if it's going to cost $150,000, I know people say, well, that's a road. Look at the long term. Look at the long-term plan. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Ted, I got a couple questions.
Shoot.
Which I don't know whether you're going to be able to answer them, or Mark, or whom, if they need to wait for the mayor. But where is the carpeting at now?
The carpeting that is proposed to not be installed is at the service department. That carpet is being utilized. It is some of it is going to be installed in the building department. Some of that carpet is going to be installed at the police department. I'm not sure if fire department is getting some. They may be getting some. Some of it's going to be used in the rec center. So the carpet is going to be used. That's the reason that the choice was made, as opposed to send the carpet back and pay the restocking fee, that we would take the carpet. So we have the carpet, we have the adhesive, we have the stuff to put that down. And it's being installed as we speak at the old fire station on Smith Road, where the building department and animal control are going to be housed together. Some of it's going to be used in the rec center, some of it's going to be used in the police station.
So we're currently some of it's being utilized right now.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, and I'm not sure where it was at, whether it was yourself or if it was Mr. Elliott, but they said about carpeting in the lobby of the rec center, of the community center. Was the lobby going to be carpeted originally? And I guess that would be the brown tile area?
The carpet, the scope of work was inside the second doors, where you actually enter the buzz door, where you put your finger in, it unlocks and you go in. That's where the scope of the work of the building started. So from that point all the way to the mini gym was proposed to have carpet.
Okay, so not just over the existing white and blue that are there, but also the brown that goes up along the community center, the community room doors?
That is correct.
Okay. What protective measures are being are being put in place in the community room to protect the stage area, which will also obviously hold the dais for council when it's not in use? Are there any protective measures in place?
Protective measures for what purpose?
For the dais, obviously, the dais is a council dais and a meeting dais that will be used for planning commission meetings, council meetings with, it will have electronics or whatever if it's similar to what we have here, to protect it from community using it or possibly abusing it. Is there a protective measure in place to keep people from being able to go up onto it when it's not being utilized by city representatives?
Well, with all due respect, when it's a community event, there is people in charge of that community event that are overseeing that room. I would venture to put my faith that they would be taking care of it. As a family function, there is a protection in place for that, and it's called a damage waiver that you put up to rent the room. As far as, a youth sports banquet or something to that effect, the kids getting up there monkeying around, again, I don't think that we can protect ourselves from ourselves. I think the adults would do the right thing and not allow the kids up there. We've all had banquets, you and I, Jimmy, all of us have banquets at Ford Middle School, at BPM, in the community room. I don't think we've had the curtains ripped down or the speakers or the podiums destroyed in that situation. I understand your concern. I do know that it's being looked into to possibly put a stage-type curtain, draw curtain across there so it would kind of hide that at some point, but that's down the road. We've discussed that and think that we're going to put our trust in the people and hope that everybody does the right thing. Sure, could it happen? Yeah, it could. But I think with the adult supervision in the facility, with Pee Wee basketball, I don't think anybody that's doing aerobics in there is going to jump up on the dais and bust up the computers. But again, we have, damage waivers in place that pretty much protect that. Electronics will be all under lock and key, so they won't have access to turn on computers or microphones or things like that.
Thank you. Mr. Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a question I was going to ask Ted also about the carpeting, if it's going to be utilized. I'm glad to hear that it is. It won't be wasted, so I'm really glad to hear that. We're very fortunate, I think, in the city to have professionals in these positions. Ted's very knowledgeable. He breaks things down so you can understand it very clearly, and I appreciate that. Mark Elliott knows kids. He knows recreation. There's no doubt about that. We all want what's best for our families and our kids, and I know that Mark Elliott wants the rec center to excel and succeed. So I have to agree with the proposals here too, and I think it's necessary and for safety too. So I would be on board with what we're going to do. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bergio. Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to our recreation director. Mark, that kitchen that we're discussing tonight, that's the original kitchen when the building was built. So that's what I thought. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Mr. Orcutt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Hurst and the rec director, Mr. Elliott, for speaking on this issue. There's some things that I agree with just about everybody in this room on. There's some things that I don't agree with you on this project here. And I think that if we all come together, we can, agree on one thing, that, safety is number one. And also maybe the location of that window being there where you may have, yourself walking in to work out at the rec center, and there's your neighbor paying a traffic ticket or just walking out of court and paying a fine of some sort. It would be a bit embarrassing, I think. I thought that from the beginning once I found out the plans. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to both of you for speaking on this. Now, I do have to agree with a couple of my colleagues here that we're throwing out some good questions. And the reason why I agree with them is because we need to be extremely cognizant of every dollar that's spent in this community. I walked a lot last summer, and the biggest thing that I heard from the people was the roads. And if we look at our road program right now, it's extremely tight. So a lot of these questions that we're asking about, the kitchens, it's very good because think what Council President said. I think we do need to focus on our needs, not just our wants. So this is something that we do have to come to the middle on. And we have to be very careful because it's not only the roads that are being questioned about right now, which that program is completely underfunded, as we all know. But I'm also getting questions about when is this pool opening? And I don't know, we don't have the mayor here, and I don't even know what I can tell the people on that subject, because that was a big campaign thing this summer. So as we talk about this, I think it's very healthy that we're asking a lot of good questions here. And I want to thank my colleagues for bringing this up. I think both Mr. Elliott and Mr. Hirsch, you made great points today. Mr. Elliott, talking about the carpet and the kids and the food and stuff like that, it makes sense. It really does. But I also believe that, that carpet does make areas pop, so I hope we do use it in there. I think this is something where I still haven't received it, but I'd like to see an original breakdown from Brewer Garrett on exactly what was this project about, because I hear different things. There was a parking lot supposed to be installed. Now it's not. Where's that money? why are we having an ordinance to approve 110,000 when there was other changes made? So as we have this discussion, I would like to just make a comment to my colleagues. We have to remember how we got here and what the residents were talking about. And it was about the roads. It was about the pool. It's about many things. So we have to be cognizant of the people that are the hardworking taxpayers. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Go ahead, Mr. Hurst.
If I could just answer a question or clarify something there. The energy renovation project with Brewer Garrett, there was no parking lot involved in that contract. So there's nothing there from Brewer Garrett's standpoint. The original contract of the renovation part of this, their job was the mechanical and the aesthetic upgrades of the building, that type of thing. Phones, computers, that type of stuff was not part of their, that was city projects, not part of the Brewer Garrett, just so you know it wasn't part of the 5.2.
Go ahead.
Real quick, and I know it's not to you, maybe it's to the rec director, that I know you're there every day. I would like to see the original plan. I think I've requested it one time, but I'd like to see that. The original cost plan, I'm sure there was,
Oh.
I wasn't on council at that time, but I'd like to see an original, whatever it was, a
Contract.
binder.
The
Your
contract or-
contract with,
That's something you have to get through the mayor's office, or I
Okay.
don't have any of that.
all right, I'll write an email to the
Yeah.
mayor and put that request in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Ted, before you leave, and you were on this, and obviously, again, back to the new people, is there a detailed punch list of what was being done originally and down to where we're at now that is available, or is that something that we should probably follow up with the mayor with?
There was a set of drawings, the design-build drawings, that the project was being built by. Those, I thought you guys had a set of those drawings. It's changed a little bit since because of some of the changes that we've went through, but the basic project itself is on the drawings. We have the mechanical drawings from Brewer Garrett. We have the design drawings from the architect. So those drawings are there.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Ted. Ted, on this project that we talk about, 5.2, how much of it went up on that roof?
Jimmy, I don't have the details on.
Roughly 20% of it,
I
40?
I couldn't
2%.
even begin to speculate. I know nothing about the dollars and cents of the project.
Would it be high?
I would say it's up there, yeah, I would say it's up there close to, it's a big number.
Okay, and
It's a
and
big
that's on the
number.
HVAC, that's on the roof repair?
That's with the roof repairs and the.
Everything to keep
that
that
was the
building,
majority of it.
everything to keep that building viable, right?
The majority of the cost of this project, my understanding, what I know of it, was the HVAC mechanical work that was done on the
Okay,
building.
I bring that up because I think that tends to slip a lot. I mean, we're talking about carpet and moving things, stuff of that sort, but that was a big number when I heard it. Okay.
I think 2.9, 3.1, you know, there was a $3 million number out there that for the actual mechanical work. That number, that was gonna have to be paid somewhere.
Okay, and real quick, and I don't want to beat it up, on that carpet, it is being used in other spots, right?
It is.
It is. You said the police, I hear it went pretty well over there with that. Will we suffer anything because of that? Will we lose anything because of that? Us not putting it in the original plan?
It has nothing to do with the energy conservation part of this project. We're not saving, it's not affecting the energy savings by not having the carpet in there. Brewer Garrett has assured us that there is no change in the contract, nor will there be, because we're eliminating the carpet in those two areas.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I do have other feelings with the rec, with the streets, my feeling on some of the things Mr. Scott said, but I'll save that for another meeting because we will have more. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Go ahead, Mr. Hirsch.
If I can just finish with, I know you're going to move this to the next caucus or council. The one thing I would say is the longer we wait to make the decision, the more chance these prices are going to go up.
And I did ask that. I appreciate that, Ted, that you
We
brought
are
that
in a
up.
holding pattern,
Thank you.
and I can't stop work much longer before we start getting charged for it. We've got areas that they cannot work in. They could, but would cost us more to tear it back out without the decision. So decision, that's opinions and who wants to do what and how they want to do it. I'm not passing my opinion. I'm just asking that we be diligent in our decision. Because if it's no, we're going to continue. If it's yes, we can continue on the changes and not get into more monies and more costs down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch.
Thank you.
Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. You know, when this proposal was presented to the public, I wasn't a big fan, and it's for this very point that we're at right now. You know, it was sold as we were going to get this big, beautiful, brand new wreck, and I knew that wasn't the case, and I made my feelings clear to whoever would listen to that. But what happened is happened, and here we are now, and everyone's saying we need to decide needs over wants, and right now I think we need to address this issue and get moving forward with the doors and the other changes that are proposed, so we can get this project done and we can start realizing the savings that the whole project was designed for to begin with. We talk about we're stressed for money. Let's get this project done so we can start realizing the savings. $350,000 a year or something was what we're supposed to save, and we can really use that money. I mean, that's just my point. So I don't know if we need to hold a special meeting to get this going so the guys can get back to work and get the door put in and get the project finished up, or that's just my feelings on it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick comment. I would just like to say that I appreciate the comments of our Director Elliott. I don't believe that you can put a price on safety. I don't think it's a matter of dollars and cents. I think safety is of the utmost importance, and I'm totally in support of protecting our children and the parents. I understand all of it. I understand the ramifications of this project, where it started and where it's at now, and I do understand the importance and the need of a quick resolve to this. Obviously, it's going to require some special meetings to be called, as well as with the budget. Okay, we can't just sit here and just talk about the budget and do nothing. Something has to be done before the end of the month. But I would, if I could, Mr. Director, I know tomorrow I'm going to be tied up, but maybe Thursday or Friday, if you got some free time, I'd like to come by and take one more look at the area that we're talking about tonight on this legislation, not the entire project, just this particular part. So I will call you sometime tomorrow or Thursday morning, and we'll set a time up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Anyone else? Entertain a motion this was discussed.
So made.
Support.
Motion this was discussed, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yeah.
Salvatore?
Yes.
All right, motion is approved. Item 4, motion to adjourn, I'll entertain.
Motion so made.
Support.
Motion to adjourn properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Caucus meeting is officially adjourned at 9:09. Have a good evening, everyone.